Welcome back to another episode of ROC Boys Football. It is college football bowl season, and we are breaking down our first bowl of the year on Saturday, December 17th, the SRS Distribution Las Vegas Bowl between the Florida Gators and the Oregon State Beavers. I love when you get like a cross-conference matchup. You get a Pac-12 team, you get a Florida Gators team. This is the first time the Florida Gators have played a Pac-12 team after beating Utah week one. It's going to be a fun one. We have some opt-outs, but excited to get into it. Before we do, though, just want to say thank you guys for the support you guys have shown the channel. Again, we break down a lot of games. We talk high school recruiting. We talk the NFL draft. And the support you guys have shown truly does mean a lot. And the best way you can support us is just subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave your thoughts in the comment section. Again, we really do, for real, appreciate all that you guys have shown in the support category. Dill, I'm going to kick it off to you. What are your early takes on this game here?
I mean, this is like a stylistic matchup of one team that just feels like they overperform every game. I mean, they don't play perfect, obviously, but they're very mistake-free. It's just like when you watch them, it's like everything's really solid, but nothing knocks your socks off. And then you got a Florida team who, I mean, when they're clicking, they look awesome, and they're you can see the talents there to play with any of these big dogs. But I mean, when they're low, they're so low.
And I think you hit the nail right on the head. I mean, Oregon State is not a flashy team. We covered them when we talked about the Washington matchup, when we took them to cover the 6.5 points on the road at Washington, and they do that. This team isn't flashy by any means. They don't really have a star that you look forward to like carry this team. 10-2 against the spread. They're a top 25 team in the country and kind of a quiet team that, I mean, has performed extremely well this year. And when you look at the actual matchup of this game, I mean, it's really hard not to like Oregon State. And now what I want to say is, for Florida Gators fans, I don't think you really care what the score is of this game. I don't know if you're a Florida Gators fan, you don't hang your head on the Distribution Las Vegas Bowl. It's a 6-6 disappointing season for the Florida Gators. But what you want to see in this bowl game is some of those young dogs step up and really see what you have in the future, because Billy Napier is really hot on the recruiting trail. You have some young talent already within the program. You're going to finally get a chance to kind of see what you got for next year in the years coming.
Yeah, and for being a team that was pretty mediocre all year, I think this is a really good matchup, because I think this is almost disrespectful to Oregon State to an extent, because that's a really good team they've been all year. A really nice win that closed out against Oregon. So for Florida, it's not like you're playing a team from the MAC or the kind of one of the small conferences where you're going to be overmatching them straight up. You're going to get a chance to see if these young guys can play, because if they don't play very well, you're kind of with you. I think Oregon State's going to blow them out of the water.
So let's talk about actually taking our picks at the game. I'll say it right now. I like Oregon State to cover the 10 points. I think this one could get out of hand just because you're playing a Florida Gators team that not only has been inconsistent, you don't even know what you have coming into this game. You look at the opt-outs. Anthony Richardson opt-out, Osiris Torrance, Gervin Dexter. Those are some of the bigger names that have opted out. But again, this roster that already we've talked about hasn't had the best depth all year, especially on the defensive line. You lose your number one guy up front in Gervin Dexter. Oregon State wants to run the football. They are a run-first team. Florida has not been good against the run, giving up over 4.5 yards per carry to opposing running backs. A depleted front seven for Florida versus a very, very good Oregon State team that has almost no opt-outs besides guys who have hit the portal. This seems like a really good matchup for the Beavers here.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. You don't want to see a team that wants to run the ball the way Oregon State does, which is a very physical, downhill power run scheme, and be a team that, as you mentioned, is a little light up front because of opt-outs. And if your depth isn't there and they're pounding on you all game, and you don't really have a ton of motivation, I don't think, if you're Florida, to win this game. I'm kind of with you. I feel like, again, you kind of know what the coach from Oregon State is. That Jason Smith? I mean,
Jonathan Smith.
He's excellent, and I have a hunch he's going to have his team ready, because they're going to want to probably smoke Florida, if I had to guess. So
that's kind of where I'm saying is, you look at the motivation, Florida and their motivation, and what Billy Napier wants is, I want to see the young guys and who I have on my team that hasn't really played much but are going to be contributors next year. I don't really care about what the scoreboard says. I want to see some of the young guys for next year. Oregon State, on the other hand, you get a chance to go and play an SEC team in a bowl game and kind of further the conference and mean, that's what you want. You want to make a national statement. A lot of eyeballs are going to be on this game whenever Florida plays. Oregon State's going to want to make a statement. So when you look at the motivation for actually who wants to win this game and maybe cover the spread, it's definitely going to be Oregon State. I will say, one of the things I worry about is Florida has run the football very well all year. Oregon State has struggled to stop the run. They're also giving up over 4 yards per carry to opposing running backs. The question I have is that offensive line and that run game for the Florida Gators was predicated on Anthony Richardson being a guy that can make people miss in space and be a running threat himself, and also guys like Osiris Torrance opening up holes in the middle. Both guys not playing in this game. What's this Florida running game going to look like with guys like Montrell Johnson, Etienne, who are going to be playing, but are they going to be able to run the football as successfully as they have all year?
Yeah, and that's a problem because looking at this Florida team, who's going to play? I imagine it has to be Jack Miller at this point.
It is. Jack Miller's the starting quarterback, and they're not going to be able to throw the football on this Beavers team. Oregon State's secondary is phenomenal.
And Jack Miller doesn't pitch in a ton on the run game, which I think you're right. If you look at the run game, it was. I mean, Richardson had the third most yards, and he wasn't that far behind. I think he was like 150 yards behind their leader. So I'm kind of with you. I don't know. Jack Miller, don't know what he can bring.
He hasn't played a snap of football. Like he was the quarterback through all year.
Just by the nature of how his career is shaken out a little bit. And then, again, you got a wideout group that's played really poorly. That's probably the one place I think Florida should want to hope to God they see something. Because that wideout crew just, really rough year across the board for them. And if you can see something from some of these young guys that makes you think you're not going to have, the play that they had this year, I think that'd be really encouraging because they need that group to get way better.
That was the biggest problem. Anthony Richardson obviously had his inconsistencies, but guys like Justin Shorter just struggled to stay healthy. You had a lot of drops, but you're looking at a guy like Caleb Douglas, Xavier Henderson, those guys who are very good football, like they're talented guys coming out of high school. That's probably the position you want to see the most. You have a bunch of young guys on the defense side of the ball too that you want to see, but this passing attack, Billy Napier's going to want to run the football. That's no secret. But you got to be able to throw the football. And as inconsistent as Anthony Richardson was, his receivers were not giving him any help. So, again, the Gators, you want to see just some young guys be able to show that they're going to be playmakers and contributors for next year versus an Oregon State team that they want to win this football game and they probably want to win it in a big way. So when you're looking at who you're going to take, you got to be leaning Oregon State -10 there.
I think so too. I don't see what Florida's going to be able to do particularly well in this game.
This is going to be a fun one. Like in a year or in the past couple of years when bowl games have starting to be a little less meaningful, this Oregon State team is going to want to win. And this Florida Gators team, like if you're a Florida Gators fan, I'm a college football fan. I want to see what this young talent that Florida Gator, this Florida Gator program has in the pipeline. I'm going to be watching because you're going to get to see some guys who haven't really played much football. It's going to be one of the more intriguing bowl games, especially this weekend. I'm excited to watch it. We'll close it out on that again. Appreciate you guys for checking us out. If you do like the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We appreciate y'all, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.